free your staff to focus on high-impact work while offering round-the-clock assistance to every student. With Element 451, you can deploy AI agents that reason, act, and provide support at scale, solving problems, analyzing data, and crafting personalized outreach instantly. These AI agents expand your team's abilities without replacing the human touch, allowing staff to dedicate their time to what matters most. Unlock the future of workforce enablement at element451.com. Welcome to The Application, a podcast focused on actionable takeaways to help you level up your marketing and enrollment management game. I'm your host, Dr. Allison Tercio, Assistant Vice President of Enrollment and Marketing at Siena College. Join me every Tuesday for discussions with some of the best minds in higher ed marketing and enrollment management. The Application is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal faves linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. On this episode, we're joined by my most higher ed famous guest yet, Dr. Joe Sallustio, a leader in our industry, Vice President of Industry Engagement at Ellucian, host of the EdUp Experience Podcast, and co-author of the best-selling book, Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education. Joe, welcome to The Application.
Thank you, Allison. And I have to tell you, I don't know what higher ed famous means, but my wife will tell you it means absolutely nothing. So, but I am so honored to be here.
My husband would say that too, but they don't matter for this podcast.
That's exactly right. Well, thank you for having me.
They matter for everything else.
I'm truly honored to be with you. You're a great podcaster, one who I follow and listen to.
Well, this is coming from like the king of the higher ed podcast. So I will take that compliment very, very well. And thank you. And everyone else, please check out Joe's podcast when you have a chance, if you haven't already. But let's start there because, Joe, you've interviewed hundreds of college presidents and other college leaders, which gives you a really unique perspective on higher ed leadership. And I'm wondering, what's the most consistent themes that you hear from those leaders about marketing and enrollment today?
Yeah, obviously, the importance of enrollment and of marketing. Maybe less about marketing and enrollment is the word, right? So it's all kind of focusing on enrollment. Marketing is a way to generate that. But the one word that stands out among the rest, and I was just talking about this recently, is differentiation. How do we differentiate? Like, because there's so many comprehensive universities, especially in the Northeast, where there's kind of you could take a baseball and throw it in any direction, you're probably going to hit another university. So there's very high competition. How do you stand out and really crystallize what it is you do? And more importantly, how do you figure out what you're not going to do? Or how do you figure out what you're not going to spend money on to say? Because that's money that could be wasted versus from a marketing standpoint to say, this is what we do. This is how we operate. This is how we serve the industry. And sometimes it's really hard to pull down and decide, not going to do this, right? Because we like to be all things to all people, programmatically, enrollment. We want 150 programs. That's just not reality these days.
We don't love conflict. We don't want to be a bad guy and cut something or, people, the things that maybe we're not going to do. There's people on our campuses, they love them. They're really passionate about them.
Right. And you hear it sometimes for anybody that works in higher ed and you have low enrolled programs and faculty member says, well, what are you doing to market my program?
Yeah.
Well, it's like one of 100 programs. I'm not just taking this $5,000 or $50,000 and saying, I'm going to market this one program. That's not good marketing, right? So how do you feed the winners? And that's what I'm hearing, right? When you ask about trends, presidents are realizing you have to feed the winners. You have to feed the programs that are growing with the marketing money, with the enrollment attention, and perhaps cut the ones that are lower.
Well, and first and foremost, you have to feed the school. You have to feed the brand overall, the institution overall. You have to sell that before you can even sell them on one of the programs that is in that umbrella of that brand, right? So that's really hard perhaps sometimes to see. But what are we supposed to do about this differentiation piece of it? Because I think the hard thing is it boils down to we actually are all selling the same thing, right? We're all selling a college degree. And so when you're selling the same thing, it makes it hard for the audience to be able to see differences among the offerings. Viv Higher Education, they were doing a webinar back in December, and they said something like 97% of colleges, from the audience perspective, they think we're all the same. So I'm not surprised that presidents are talking about differentiation, but what are you hearing on the how? Yes, making those strategic decisions helps start to make those decisions for you, right? What are you going to market? What are you not going to market? But still, even if you look at your program mix, then what? How do you actually sound and look different to an audience?
If you can answer, or if I can answer that question, I mean, we're going to start our own company and we are going to kill it. But I think part of the answer is in product, right? So you have to ask yourself, what are the most important parts of a good marketing and enrollment strategy? And for us in higher education, maybe for any industry, it's the product. What it is you're selling, what it is that you're messaging to, even your institution who has a brand. Eventually, if somebody chooses an institution X, they're going to look at that product, right? There's going to be a product that comes with it. And from a product standpoint, higher education, by and large, dances the same dance, Allison. Spring, fall, spring, fall, spring, fall. We do this nice academic calendar standard. And for many students, especially the modern student, if you look at anybody beyond the 18 to 22-year-old traditional college student, you look at the adult student market, some college no credential, all of those markets, they're looking for something a little bit different, graduate, anything. So the question is, how can we change the product or amend the product to give us an opportunity to sell? And one of the ways we saw it in 2024, they will continue to see it in 2025, is the 90 credit bachelor's degree.
Yep.
That's some differentiation in product, right? Other differentiation in product might be non-standard term, non-terms, credentialing, non-credit, blah, blah, blah. There's so many ways to amend the product. The question is, do you have enough oomph? And that's a educational word I'm using, oomph, to create change internally against the change eaters that just come and suck up all your motivation. And that's something that higher ed is really trying to deal with. Competency-based education, 90 credit bachelors, what are the other ways that we can offer learning?
What are the roles that someone sitting in a marketer seat or an enrollment manager seat, what should they take on in response to this changing landscape and the changes to modern learning?
Well, I mean, to use terms that not everybody agrees with, but enrollment is, to some degree, selling. It is selling a program to somebody who wants it or is thinking about it, and you want to position your product better than another university. So your enrollment folks, I find, and you probably do too, Allison, in most respects, don't have as loud of a voice at the table as they need to. I think universities need to engage their ground level enrollment folks in every single decision, because they are the point at the university which the student decides to come. So they have so much information that we don't tap into. And I think we just have to use our voices in enrollment. It's hard because higher ed is structured academically, not for operations necessarily, right? It's academically designed. But I think if you can't sell it, it's just not going to be there. And it's your enrollment professionals that get to say that. And I think marketing says it too. If people are not submitting interest in a program, that's a pretty good indicator of longevity for a program. And it's hard, like, the data better than I do, Allison. You see this demand come in for this program, and in this program, it's really high, and this one, it's really low. And what will happen is somebody says, well, we get the demand higher for that one. Well, people just aren't picking it because the product might be bad.
Yeah. And you actually really, when this happens, you actually know the program is actually really great too. And the professors are really great. And it really puts us in a tough position because we know in terms of our limited resources, how we have to allocate our spending and our time, right? But you
Yeah.
know that there is something good there, but you also can't control the wider market and what the students are interested in. I have to spend my resources mostly, honestly, selling Sienna. It's not too much. I don't want to put it that way, like an unwillingness, but it's hard enough to do that, let alone
Yeah.
also be selling a program that has interest dwindling in it. That's hard because you actually love the program. You can see the value in it, but seeing it and being able to sell it on top of everything else, that's a tough place to be in.
Well, and you know what can happen then is you have enrollment personnel, and I have done this too. Probably every enrollment person has. You start figuring out which is the easier program to enroll somebody in because it has a demand or there's more students enrolling with it. So you don't want to say, hey, Allison, if we enroll you in the Bachelor's of Business, you're going to be in class with all these other great people versus we put you in the Bachelor's of X. And it's a very small cohort of students. And you just know the student may not pick it because there's other competitors out there. So you're going to put them in the one where you know you can sell. So it creates bias.
Yeah.
And you're like, I want to hit my enrollment numbers. I want to help grow the school. And I know I can do it in this set of programs and not this set.
Yeah.
So that's all part of marketing and enrollment that's hard to reconcile with, I think.
The next era of higher ed is here. AI that's both scalable and deeply human. At the 2025 Engage Summit, learn how to use agentic AI to personalize outreach, engage proactively, and free time for what matters most. This Don't Miss event is happening June 24th and 25th in Charlotte. Enrollify listeners get $50 off with code Enrollify50. Don't wait. Register at engage.element451.com. It really is. And I want to get into the goals and challenges that presidents are talking to you about that we as enrollment marketers need to understand. But first, I just want to take a second to ask our listeners to subscribe to the podcast and my newsletter at AllisonTercio.com to make sure you never miss an episode. The newsletter is actually bi-weekly, and I collect all the best content from higher ed marketing and I put it in one place for you. So that's at AllisonTercio.com. But back to you, Joe. When you hear these presidents talk about their goals and their challenges and what we're struggling with in this industry, what are the top priorities, the things that enrollment marketers need to know, need to understand today?
Well, I think from a presidential standpoint, you're talking about sustainability of business model. That only happens with enrollment, right? Like that when you talk about enrollment or funding, for state institutions, it's about funding and you have to hit certain enrollment thresholds in order to get the right outcomes to get more funding. And in private institutions, certainly it's overall enrollment. So I think that's it, right? There are a lot of product conversations. And this is where enrollment personnel can be really valuable is to say, what do students want? What are they asking for that maybe we don't have? How do we capture that, Allison? Is it in marketing and enrollment professionals? If somebody says, well, I was really looking for this and you don't have it, how do we capture that so that it's just not on to the next one? So that we create some kind of output that says, we had 100 students ask for this program or this type of methodology that we don't have. I think information capture is really one thing that enrollment should be aware of. And how do we really communicate what students are after these days? I think that's a big one. Also, presidents keeping good people. This should be on the mind of enrollment personnel. Do you love what you're doing? It's hard work. Man, this is hard work meeting with students every day to enroll them. I did it for a long time. I know how hard it is, and I know how important it is to keep people happy in their jobs. So I think we have to know what keeps us happy in enrollment. What makes us tick? Give us the resources to be happy. It could be financial resources. I think we underpay enrollment professionals by and large across the industry. These are the people that create the business model and sometimes are the lowest paid professionals on a university campus. It is total BS, another academic term for you.
Oof, and total BS we've got if anyone's
Yes.
taking a tally.
But I'm right? Like
Yeah.
these people
Well,
die,
yeah, the sales team in particular, you go to a sales team in other industries, they're often some of the highest paid people, right? But I think what happens is I don't think that presidents or leaders at colleges feel like they aren't worth it. I think, but what happens is because higher ed looks to higher ed for benchmarks on things like this, we're
Yep.
in like this vicious cycle of, well, we're in line with the other schools. So the industry really needs to kind of come to this understanding of how you value your frontline sales team. Yeah.
Well, and that it's the quantification of when you have a great enrollment person leave and it's like, oh no, we're really in trouble. That's when you really know it. But yeah, from an industry standpoint, you're right. We don't pay what we should to enrollment professionals. It's not like we can incentivize them. So it's all passion based, and you should get paid for what you do. I'm not certainly advocating for anybody to get upset with their employer right now, but I just say from a value standpoint. And then, the other thing presidents are talking about is alignment. Are we really mission aligned? Do we really know what we're messaging out there? That's a part of the differentiation, but I think it's a crystallization of the value proposition. And right now, higher ed's value is in question. You know that.
Yeah.
So every single president I'm talking to is like, we're trying to really communicate the value of our institution. If it's religiously based and educationally based, we want to combine those together. If it's a private institution that's comprehensive, what are we doing differently that communicates value? How do we look at credentialing and so on? So that value piece is really important too.
Yeah. And I think the frontline, your point, there's been a trend about sort of the frontline people and the value that both ways that it can go. And I do think it's so valuable in terms of information collection, like you were saying, because they are the ones hearing directly from students and parents every day, the admissions counselors, the financial aid counselors. And I'll just say, when we built a new marketing strategy for Sienna, we actually had admissions and financial aid and students at the table to build it. Usually out of your marketing department, you're just going to have the marketing people, but we really wanted the people who hear from the people every day. And then on the other piece of program, I think that's a great training the admissions counselors when they're on the road at a college or wherever it might be. I got asked about this program and kind of keeping a tally. We also use our search data on our website. So for many years, there were a few programs that were highly searched for on our website, but there were no results for them to go to because we didn't have that program. We're in a much, much better place now. But yeah, use your website search data. That's a great one. I'm wondering, what do you think the trends are going to be in terms of the enrollment marketing space? What's going to dominate these next few years of this work?
I think that schools are going to invest more in marketing by and large. I want to believe it. Maybe, I don't know if it's a trend yet, Allison, but I really want to believe that somewhere, somehow, everybody's going, oh, wow, we should not cut from our marketing budget. We should double it if we want to grow in the marketplace. Maybe we're going to go take an endowment draw in order to beef up our enrollment and pay it back over time. Maybe there's a way for us to take an investment and grow marketing. I think that's got to be a trend. I think this marketing, enrollment, and the artificial intelligence conversation, right? This is a first big area where we can become more efficient with artificial intelligence, complementing our work, not supplementing it, complementing our work, so that we could spend more time on the phone or through email with students rather than updating all these things and spending all these times on how many screens we probably use, right? I think speed is another one. And this is something that I talk about a lot, is how do we increase the speed of enrollment? Like when you are going for an Uber. When you call an Uber, it takes you 6 minutes to get it. You've paid your credit card already. It's already in there, so you don't need to do anything. The car picks you up and drops you off. Netflix, when you stream, you can skip the introduction. I can skip these parts that are not relevant to me. How do we start thinking about speed from an enrollment perspective? And one of the biggest ways that I hope to see this change in 2025 and beyond is with credit transfer and artificial intelligence possibilities that they can speed up credit transfer evaluation so students can get into their institution faster. Because that's going to be a big market, the transfer market. It is a big market. But if I got to wait 2 weeks for somebody somewhere in the depths of some building somewhere to tell me if I get credit, see ya. I'm going somewhere else that's faster. So I think speed is going to be a big trend moving forward.
What do marketers need to do to get those investments in whatever it might be, advertising, the tech you're talking about? What do we have to do you think, to convince our institutions to make that investment?
Find your trailblazing leaders in your administration. There's got to be one. At least, I hope there's at least one out there sitting at the cabinet table. But I think ROI, right? Being able to show an ROI. Everybody likes a good business case. If we invest this much, if we can invest this much, we believe the return is going to be this because enrollment will go up by this percentage, right? It can be simple calculations, but showing that ROI. And right now, university presidents are all about return right now because they're seeing that return, the short-term, medium-term, and long-term financial gain of these investments from a technology standpoint. And AI, whether it's believed by every university president and adopted by every university president, it is discussed. And every university president is aware of the applications. And Allison, what I think enrollment and marketing professionals can do is say, we sourced this. We looked at this technology. We ran an ROI study on it. We believe this will do X for us. So the university president doesn't have to go, hey, Allison, go check out AI. Let's get some AI in here. What does that even mean, get AI? You know what I mean? Somebody said it to us.
Get some AI. We're just going to go to the supermarket, pick up some AI today.
Check it out. It was some milk and some AI.
It's really about getting people to think about it as an investment instead of a cost, is really what this boils down to. And what are the maneuvers and what are the messages that we can come up with to make that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. The proof, right? Yeah. There has to be demonstrable proof. And, think about it. Like, presidents are all about outcomes right now. How many students graduate? What's the outcome of this investment? Same thing. What's the outcome if we move to this technology? And the other piece here is that your university president wants to be able to say to their board, we're investing in new technology that is backed by artificial intelligence that's going to make us more efficient, because your board members, many of them are coming from tech or from other industries that are implementing AI. So there's a payoff, a leadership payoff for the president to be able to turn this around and say, look at what we're doing, board, right? So I think you got to empower your president and give them, her or he or whoever, the details to say, we're doing this. And there's an ROI on it.
All right, Joe, last question. What's one piece of advice you'd give to enrollment marketers as we're looking to this new era of higher ed?
I'm going to give you the standard, use artificial intelligence answer. But I think that's probably been given. I think the creativity of enrollment marketers is more important than artificial intelligence. I think the human creativity, especially as the student is changing, AI can't predict all the ways the student is changing over time right now. But we see it in enrollment as enrollment marketers. We see what's happening. We need to use our creativity to engage other humans. AI can help us do that, but it can't replace it. And I think that's the human connection above all that is what makes people enroll in a university.
Absolutely. They can't understand a student. AI can't understand a student. They can't empathize with a student. That's right. Us. But I think to your point, the word creative, how can we creatively use AI to actually bolster those human connections? That's what's really going to make it.
I think you're right. We'll have to see. And you tell me the answer, because you know. By the way, you asked me when you gracefully allowed me to come on your podcast what question I would want to be asked. Do you remember?
Did I miss it?
Well, the question was...
Oh, I know why I skipped your question.
Oh, you do.
Because it was, why is Allison so awesome?
You said, what should I be? Why is Allison so awesome? And the answer is, because you're doing a great podcast and you know all about this stuff. So
thanks, all right. Way to help me bring it home. The expert brings it home for us. And Joe, how can our listeners find you and connect with you?
That's pretty easy. LinkedIn, just look me up. You can follow my content on LinkedIn. We have the EdUp wrap-up newsletter. Head up to the EdUpExperience.com. Any one of those ways, pretty easy to find.
Awesome. And thanks, everyone, for listening. Make sure to tune in to the next episode for even more insights on enrollment marketing in higher ed. The application is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed tech shows that are jam-packed stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea, and they feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Day Kibbles, Jeremy Tiers, and so many other of your favorite higher ed leaders. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.